Coming up next, my full review of one of the newest releases or re-releases maybe from Casmorati, which is also Xerjoff, and this is Italica, a gourmand specialty. Full review right after this. Welcome back, everybody, to Joel the Nose, and going to do a full review here. I talked about this a little bit before in one of my previous videos. This just came into Osme. As you saw, I have here the bottle, and this is actually in my collection. I have gone ahead and added this to my collection. Just real quickly, again, this is Italica, just released, actually re-released in 2021. Interestingly, it came out, the original version came out, it looks like around 2016 on this, and they've updated, re-released it, and from what Maurice was telling me at Osme, the original version you could only get from Casmorati directly, so from their website, and that was the only way you could do it. And if you wanted to get it, say, in a boutique like Osme or some other type of retail establishment, you couldn't do it. So they just now released this to Osme and other boutiques. Osme was one of the first ones to get it in their store, so you can actually now smell it, try it, rather than, you know, blind buy it from their website, which of course to me is always a plus. So bottle is one of the coolest bottles. I think it's probably the best bottle I've seen from Casmorati. I've seen a lot of theirs, but they all have the same design, but this red matte finish you can see is just so exquisite. It's not shiny, it's just the kind of that dull matte, which just has almost a sheen, like a soft sheen. You've got the tassel like they all have hanging off, and just wonderful presentation as always. And I think they actually went above and beyond for this presentation. So again, I already told you, you know, about when this came out. It was either re-released or released first time to the boutique world just, you know, in the last few months. What am I going to say about it? So this would definitely be classified as a gourmand. A lot of people consider this one of the best gourmand fragrances to be released, I think, in the last few years. You've seen a number of people talk about it. I've heard a lot of hype about it. I heard people talk about this all the time. But again, I had never been able to get my nose on it until just a few weeks ago when Osme got it into their shop. The minute I got it, I tried it. First little story about it, I don't know, put it on maybe around 4 o'clock in the afternoon one day, sprayed it a few times, went home, went to bed, went to sleep, woke up the next morning, and over 15, 16 hours later, it was still on my skin. And in fact, I was going to the gym and I sprayed on a fragrance that I usually spray, and this fragrance actually, 16 hours later, was still overpowering the fresh fragrance that I was wearing for the gym. So really, really long-lasting fragrance, just right off the bat, letting you guys know that right now on my skin. Really long-lasting, over 15 hours. The notes on this, let me just kind of, as I read the notes, kind of show this to you. At the top, you have almond, saffron, and milk notes, or milky notes. At the heart, you have bourbon, vanilla, and toffee. And then at the base, you have sandalwood and white musk. So I think what's a little bit different from the original version, say that came out a few years ago, I think that had other than, I think, white musk, it had a different note to it. I have to go back and look exactly. So it's maybe a little bit different in the base as far as some of the changes there. So when you spray this, and I'm going to spray it just so you can kind of see my reaction here. Actually, I'm going to go right here to the inside of my wrist. This is very unique. You better be a gourmand lover, because if you are, this is going to be one of those fragrances that you have to try. Have to try. If you're not a gourmand lover, this is going to be maybe a little bit of a challenge for you, just because this is so just gourmand, okay? And I love it. Interestingly, gourmands for a number of years were not my favorite fragrances, but I've just really grown to appreciate the complexity of a good gourmand and when it's done well. And this is done so well. You immediately at the top get this blast I do of almond and almost cherry-like, kind of like sharp metallic quality. I don't get at the top on the initial spray the kind of milky notes. It's not creamy to me. I would say it's actually a little bit more nutty, almost like an amaretto cookie. You know those little amaretto cookies that you get sometimes when you get an espresso and they serve them with like, you know, the little coffee, the espresso. It's got that little kind of cookie with like a, almost like a cherry or amaretto taste. That's what this reminds me of. And again, cherry's not listed as one of the notes, but I definitely get a cherry vibe. Maybe that's from the saffron, not exactly sure. Will be interesting to hear other people's opinions on that. But again, not really milky, very bright, very metallic, very sharp. And that's, I think, what makes this unique, because a gourmand, I picture usually a bit more, you know, almost dessert-like sweetness, almost like food, like you're eating. And this, although gourmand, I don't think has that necessarily quality for me on the initial spray. As it, and I'll say this too, it's very strong. So when you spray it, you're not going to need to spray many sprays on this. You're not going to need to do 50 or even 15. I mean, you probably do 5 or 6, and this is going to like literally, you know, project off you, and you are going to smell it. When you spray this on, you smell it all day. It's wafting all day. You get good sillage, and I kept smelling it. I've worn it now 3 or 4 times, and it just, every time, it's just, you really spray. It's very strong. It's very, I think at the top, very kind of dry and aromatic. And I would say not creamy from that milky note. Now, where the creaminess does come in is as it starts to dry down after about an hour and a half or so is where I started to get, for me, I couldn't pin the note or the smell, and I was trying to guess, like, what is that smell? And now I'm realizing it was that milky note. It's a very unique smell, and I wouldn't have, if I didn't know it was a milky note from reading, you know, obviously what the house had written, I don't know if I would have guessed that. So it was kind of cool. You know, it just surprised me. It's not a typical note that I'm used to. But that dry down goes into this kind of vanilla and toffee. It gets a little bit more creamier at that point. It's less sharp. The cherry note, whatever that is, saffron, starts to subside, although it's still there. So you still get that sweetness from it, but it's not as intense as it was at the top. And almost like, picture like a vanilla and toffee like latte. Like that's kind of how it reminds me. I almost get a little bit of a coffee vibe there. And I don't really get the bourbon. So I know bourbon is one of the middle notes, but on my nose, in the few wearings I've done now, I don't really get the bourbon. Again, interesting to see other people's opinions, whether that bourbon comes through for you. But it's, again, very unique. And that milk accord, to me, is where it really stands out after about an hour or so. It gives us a unique smell that my nose was not really familiar with. Something I really liked, I just wasn't familiar with it. And so I love it when a house can create a fragrance and a smell that is not something I'm used to. Some people shy away from that. I like being introduced to new olfactory sensations. To me, that's part of what I love about niche perfumery. And as it dries down after a couple hours, you get into this, gets a little bit more of this like powdery sandalwood. I love sandalwood. It's one of my favorite base notes. Slightly sweet from the musk, not animalic. It's not an animalic musk. White musk is a little bit more neutral. It's a little bit sweeter. It's very sensual. So this is an extremely sensual fragrance. Again, the sweetness stays throughout from the top to the middle to the dry down, not as intense as it is at the top, like right now. I mean, it's just, you know, got a very intense gourmand almond top. Beautiful. What can I say? I think this is going to be a big hit for them on their re-release, especially for the gourmand fans out there. I think you guys, you need to try it if you haven't tried it already. Let me know what you think. Again, projection, big. Longevity on my skin, big, over 15 hours. By the way, the retail price on this for this 100 milliliter bottle is $305. So, you know, they're, you know, again, Xerjoff quality. Casmorati is owned by Xerjoff. It's, you know, one of their divisions. So high quality fragrances like all the rest of them. So there you have it. That's my review. And let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you've tried it. Let me know if you have it. And get some commentary going on this. Thank you guys for watching as always. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate the support. And I'll be back soon with another video. Peace and love.